Hey everyone, and welcome. We're going to jump right into the absolute foundation of coding in Python today. We're talking about the two key concepts that are like the secret sauce behind almost every single program you've ever used. And those are variables and data types.
So, have you ever stopped to think about this? You know, when you log into an app and it says, "Hey Alex," not just, "Hey user"? Or how about when you're shopping online and you throw a bunch of stuff in your cart, you close the browser, and when you come back, it's all still there waiting for you. How in the world does a computer remember all that stuff about you?
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. All of that digital magic, it just boils down to these two super simple but really powerful ideas. And I promise, by the end of this, you're going to get exactly how it all works. So let's dive in.
All right, first up, let's tackle variables. Now, the absolute best way to think about a variable is to picture it like a labeled memory box. Seriously, it's just a container that holds on to any piece of information a program needs to remember. And yeah, it's really that simple. A variable isn't the information itself, it's just the box that you put the information in. You slap a label on that box so you can find it later. So instead of trying to remember some random number like 25, your brain just has to remember the label on the box, something like, say, user_age. Okay, so how do you actually make one of these boxes in Python? It's just 3 super easy steps. Step 1, you pick a name. That's the label for your box. We're using user_age here. Step 2, you use the equal sign. Now, in programming, this just means assign this value to. And step 3, you give it the value you want to put inside the box. And boom, just like that, you've made a variable.
Now you can't just name your variables anything you want. Python has a few simple rules. The best way to do it, the standard way, is something called snake underscore case. It's just all lowercase letters with underscores instead of spaces. Super easy to read, right? On the flip side, you'll run into errors if you try to start a name with a number or use things like dashes or spaces. So just stick to snake underscore case and you'll be golden.
Okay, so we've got our labeled boxes, our variables, but what can we actually put inside them? Can we just throw whatever we want in there? Well, not exactly. And this is where our second big idea comes in. Data types. Think of data types as the set of rules for what kind of stuff is allowed in each box.
Probably the most common thing you'll store is just plain old text. In Python, this has a fancy name, a string, or str for short. A string can be anything from one letter to a whole paragraph. The one super important rule you have to remember is that it always has to be wrapped in quotes. That's the signal to Python that says, hey, this is text.
All right, next up are numbers. Python basically splits them into two main categories. First, you have integers, or int, which are just your basic whole numbers. Think 3 items in a shopping cart. Then you have floats, and those are for any number with a decimal point. You know, like a price tag that says $10.25. It might seem like a small difference, but it's important because the computer treats them very differently.
Okay, this one is really cool, and it's actually the simplest of all. It's called a Boolean, or bool. A Boolean can only ever be one of two things, true or false. That's it. They're like the light switches of the programming world, either on or off. You usually get them by asking a question. For example, is 10 greater than 5? The answer is true. Is 1 greater than 5? Nope, that's false. So what happens if you need to store like a whole bunch of things together in just one variable? Well, for that, you've got lists. A list is kind of like a box that has a bunch of compartments inside. It can hold lots of different values, and it keeps them in a specific order. And the really neat part is that you can mix and match data types. Look here. We've got text, a number, and a Boolean all living together happily in one list.
There's one more key idea to touch on with data types. Some of them are what we call mutable, which is just a fancy word for changeable. A list is the perfect example. You can add new ice cream flavors or take some away after you've made it. But other types are immutable, which means once you create them, they're locked in, set in stone. You can't change them. It's really like some boxes can be opened and changed anytime, while others are sealed shut for good.
So, let's recap. We've got our boxes, and we've got the rules for what we can put in them. I know, it might all sound a little basic right now, but trust me. Let's see how these simple ideas are used to build the entire digital world that we use every single day.
And this is where it all clicks. Think about a website. Your username? That's just a string variable. Whether you're logged in, that's a true or false Boolean. How about your phone? Your whole contact list is, you guessed it, a list. And that little number telling you how many unread messages you have, that's an integer.
AI and machine learning, that's all just crunching massive amounts of numbers, integers and floats. Your bank balance, it's just a float in a variable. See? It's literally everywhere.
And just like that, you now understand the two most fundamental concepts in all of programming. This isn't some small detail. This is the launch pad. This is the foundation for everything, and I mean everything else you will ever do with code.
I really love this analogy because it frames it so perfectly. Think about it. If programming is a language, then variables are the nouns, the things you're talking about. And data types? They're the grammar, the rules for how you put those nouns together. What you've just done is learn how to form your very first complete sentences in Python.
So, let's just do a quick final recap. The big takeaways are: 1. Variables are just labeled boxes for holding data. 2. Data types are the rules for what kind of stuff, text, numbers, booleans, lists, can go in those boxes. And 3. These two simple concepts are the building blocks for absolutely all software.
And that really brings us to the end. You now have the fundamental tools that every single programmer on the planet, from someone just starting out to a lead engineer at a major tech company, uses every day. So I'll leave you with one final question to think about. Now that you have the building blocks, what are you going to create?